Hi, I'm Josh Lawson, and I wrote and directed Long Story Short. Well, I suppose the inspiration for Long Story Short came when I was in the middle of a bit of a personal crisis in my own life, where I felt like things hadn't been going the way I'd planned or had wanted, and I was worried that I was wasting the years of my life. I look back on the last few years at that point and felt like I hadn't accomplished much or done as much as I wanted to. And I guess as I got older, I started to be more aware of the finish line of this crazy, race of life. And all of that was sort of whirling around in my head, and instead of wallowing in it, as I have done in the past, I decided to write a character who was suffering more than I was, and that was where the character of Teddy was born and his plight, and I had, a love story that was battling this the cruelty of the brevity of time. Well, there are always going to be challenges making any film, and this one was certainly no different. I could go on for eons about not having enough money or time, but I think any film on any budget probably bemoans those problems. Look, this sounds like a cliche, but weather was against us in a major way. We often joke after we wrapped that we weren't hit with bad weather, but we were rather hit with a weather event. It was some of the worst weather in Sydney I'd ever seen, and this was not a brooding drama. We were trying to make a romantic comedy and at the same time a love letter to Sydney. Perhaps a more unique issue to the film were we didn't quite have enough money to build an entire set for the apartment in which a lot of the film takes place. But we were able to build a partial set. And then the other part of the apartment was location. And, and another cost-saving measure, we used it as C Pictures. We used C Pictures' office as the location for the story. So often these scenes, any given scene in the film, moves from the living room to the bedroom to the kitchen to the bathroom to whatever else. And of course, they were completely different locations. We had, a bedroom that was part of the set, but the living room was the location. And so it was a real Rubik's Cube jigsaw puzzle as we were breaking scenes up that were often, separated by weeks in between. And so not just, scenes out of order, but in fact, any scene itself was split into parts, and that was filmed out of order. So it was an additional hurdle that we were jumping. Kudos to the amazing actors who were able to roll with those punches. But that was a particularly challenging enterprise. But ultimately, thanks to the hard work of the amazing department heads and the crew and cast, I think we got away with it. Yeah, well, there is one other thing I'd like to share, and that is, at first, part one is a shout out to Bus Stop Films, who worked with us, to have one of their amazing students, Ben, come in and be involved in the crew during the film. And Bus Stop Films are an amazing organisation, who are teaching students with disabilities the art of filmmaking and often making incredible projects that involve not just amazing teachers and filmmakers themselves, but these students who with disabilities who are just flourishing, beyond belief. Anyway, so that's my shout out. But I did have a great story about Ben, who we all adored, having on set. And it was on the very last day of shooting of Long Story Short. And I think anyone on the crew could tell you it was not only the hardest day that we had to shoot in the shoot itself, but for a lot of people, the hardest day of shooting in their entire careers, right? Myself included. So not only was the weather absolutely buffeting us, and 1 minute it's sunny, and next minute it's raining, and next minute it's, you know, windy. It's like 14 seasons in one day. We were working with dogs, multiple dogs that day, and children, and it was just, and you know, facial hair, fake wigs, and God, it was just an absolute, we bit off more than we can chew. And at about lunchtime, I was really worried that we were not going to get this film in the can. We were losing our lead actor the next day, who was flying back to England, and we're never going to get a pickup opportunity. And I was just looking at the rest of the day going, oh my God, this is a mess. And I was leaning against a tree as I was sort of spiraling and panicking. And I hear Josh, and I look up, and there's Ben from Bus Stop Films. And I looked over and said, Ben, what's up, mate? And he said, I just wanted to let you know you're not shooting fast enough, and I don't think you're going to get everything. And I went, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And it was what I needed. I swear, it was what I needed to hear from this young man. And it really made me bust out laughing. And it put everything in perspective to all of that, you know, stress and pressure that I was putting on myself. Ben burst that bubble for me in the best possible way. And I will forever be grateful, because not only did we make the day, I actually had so much fun in that second half of the day, in large part because of Ben's frankness and honesty. And I wish there were more like him in the film industry. So, yeah. So I'm often asked, what advice would I give to aspiring filmmakers or actors or creatives? And for a long, long time, it was a question that stumped me. Didn't know, you know, God, who am I to give advice about something so lofty, you know? But actually, in my dotage, I have an answer, and I think it's a really good one. And it applies not just to creatives, but to anyone. And I genuinely think this is good, but especially to creatives, I should say. And that is, live an interesting life. It's the best thing you can do to create anything. Travel. I know that's difficult right now. Go do things that are outside your comfort zone. Meet new people. Go to places you normally wouldn't. Read books and see as many movies, or go to art galleries. Fill your life with color and interesting things. That's where creativity is born. If you were to sit down at a desk with a laptop and say, "No, create something," some people can do that. That's awesome. I envy those people. The creativity for me comes in those moments where my life is interesting or challenging. Love and be heartbroken. And creativity may come. You know, I can't stress that enough. If there are creatives out there who find themselves frustrated because the ideas aren't coming, put it aside for a while and go enjoy this finite life that we have, that we're lucky enough to have. There are many who don't get to have it, certainly not as long as they would like, and so it's win-win. Not only do I suspect ideas will come that way, but you also get to have fun and try new things. And I honestly, that is the rock solid advice that I can give to any creatives, and I urge you to heed it. And I've never heard anyone come back to me and tell me it was bad advice. So I hope that that never happens. What do I hope audiences take away from this film? Well, I think I perhaps have never made a film quite like this one, where I feel like it has such a positive message on life. But perhaps that came from, from it being inspired by, a very truthful crossroads in my life. And since making the film, one of the benefits of having social media, maybe the only benefit, is that audiences do get to reach out to you, and often, not always, they reach out with positive feedback. And in this instance, I've been really warmed that so many of the messages of people letting me know that the film has inspired them to do things that they have been putting off for so long, or perhaps were going to put off indefinitely. And so that's really the message of the film, is don't put off until tomorrow what you can do today. It's certainly not the most original of messages, but I do think it's a message we consistently forget because of the clutter of life. You know, it's not something we can constantly be putting front of mind. You know, we have other things to get to, work and family and all that sort of thing. But every so often we do take a moment and go, oh my God, what am I waiting for? You know, no one's going to come and save me. I have to do this myself. If I want real change to happen, I have to make that change. And so it's been lovely to see people write to me and say, I've never had a skin cancer screening before, and I've just booked one in for next week. Yes, that's great. God, if that's the only thing people take away from the film, that would be a win, to go get checked for skin cancer, you know, because here we are living in Australia, the skin cancer capital of the world. I've had people say, I thought I was too old to go back to university. I saw this film and I've just booked in to go and study, you know, as a mature age student. I'm like, great. I wasn't thinking of that when making the film, but that's awesome. We at one of the screenings of the Q&A in Brisbane, two women stood up at the during the Q&A and said, this has inspired me to quit my job. And I was like, that sounds great. I hope you have, you know, another way to support yourself. I don't want people to be recklessly, you know, leaving their jobs and then finding themselves 2 weeks later without income. But, you know, I wish I knew who those women were. I could follow up and find out if they had a happy ending in their story. But, you know, it's been a film, a project like no other that has elicited, you know, seemingly elicited such passionate responses and such enthusiastic responses to make a positive change in their lives. And so of that I am immensely proud.